Starting in the beginning of the game, Halo 1 was seemingly just about a Spartan super soldier named John 117, aka the Master Chief, who was trying to prevent the Covenant Empire from taking possession of the important AI known as Cortana. After fleeing from Reach in a random direction on board the Pillar of Autumn, we accidentally end up close to what is known as a Halo ring. The Covenant believe that these rings have a high religious significance. Rather than blow us to Kingdom Come, the Covenant don't want to risk damaging the holy relic of Halo. The first few campaign levels really emphasized the might of the Covenant and how they were easily able to overwhelm standard Marine forces, but with the Master Chief, the Marines can actually stand a chance. These levels really help showcase humanity's seemingly impossible struggle on this mysterious ring world. However, by the time the level 343 Guilty Spark comes around, the entire game seemingly takes a major turn. We open up to a level that is steep with darkness and fog. Now, we encountered night in Truth and Reconciliation and environmental weather conditions in Assault in the Control Room, but the darkness and fog in this level feels more so eerie and sets the tone for what's to come. This is in addition to the amazing score made by the legendary Marty O'Donnell. Another thing that we might notice immediately is the sight of grunts and jackals fleeing away from something right at the start of the mission. Right then and there, we wonder just what is happening to make the Covenant retreat. Now remember, at this point in the game, the Covenant have pretty much been these mighty foes who have been destroying us and attacking all of us and killing our Marines. Our boots hit the swampy water, and within our proximity is a crashed Pelican dropship. We hear a distress call that is set to repeat at specific intervals. Now there are plenty of flares and guns and equipment scattered just all over this little area, but the thing is, there are no visible bodies. Throughout the game, a lot of the other crashed dropships that we found had at least a couple dead bodies scattered nearby. However, in this instance, something definitely feels up. Now, I want you to just take a listen to the distress call. This, if anything else, helps set the mood that something is wrong, and this definitely is a great story piece to let us know that we're going to find something new and something very, very scary.
Dropship Victor 9. Pillar of Autumn. Assistance. We are under attack by some new kind of hostile that isn't Covenant. Captain Keyes has been captured by hostiles. Dug in at a large structure in a swampy area. We can hold out. Please. I will send this message to repeat at intervals. Dropship Victor 933, clear.
Just listening to that distress call, we can hear the distraught pilot asking for assistance and alerting anyone that can pick up the signal that there is some sort of a new enemy that the team has encountered. There's a real emphasis that we should note here, and that the pilot states that something isn't Covenant. What is going on here? From this point we hear an explosion and we see some dead bodies go flying. We can move forward and encounter some stray jackal and grunt units, but we can notice here that there are no elites with them. Now, this isn't the most unusual thing, as earlier in the game there were times where we had stray jackal and random grunt squads. However, this definitely feels different, especially after we watched these foes running away in a state of panic earlier. Also nearby in this area, there is a crashed Spirit dropship. This once again gives us a sense of something very ominous having previously occurred, because at every other point in this game, those dropships would just come in and leave no matter what we threw against them. As the player moves forward, we notice that our motion tracker starts to pick up several yellow blips, alerting us to the presence of friendlies. Could these be the Marine survivors from the crashed Pelican, or the squad with Captain Keyes? If we take a look at the distant direction of these blips, we start to see shadowy figures running away from us. However, these enemies do not appear as any type of enemy or friendly unit that we have previously encountered in the game. Moving on, we hear gunfire and explosions, and we notice more stray grunts and jackals fleeing the area in a state of absolute craze and panic. The Covenant units seem to be running on pure adrenaline triggered by fear. As we move into the Forerunner structure they were retreating from, we hear very eerie ambiance, with what sounds like strange roaring and screaming deep from within another part of the structure. Deeper into the structure we go, we begin to find a lot of makeshift barricades that the Covenant were trying to set up, seemingly in a hurry. These are using all sorts of different types of boxes, deployable covers, and barriers. We can also find areas with gunfire and plasma scorch marks, weapons and ammo left behind, blood splatter, dead bodies. In the next room, we find an area where in any other previous level we would have encountered a squad or two of Covenant forces, but right in here, we only see a couple abandoned shade turrets and abandoned needlers and blood. The lighting of these areas definitely maintains that eerie, mysterious feel that we felt in that swamp earlier on. With some light strobing and certain areas being in more of a dull lighting, it helps give that horror element of something scary previously occurring, and that the same thing can happen at any moment. Many games like Dead Space have perfected this ideal, and is prevalent in a lot of other games within the horror genre. For a first-person shooter though, like a Halo 1, to have masterfully incorporated this, it just goes to show the absolute good job that Bungie did with this title. After encountering many fearful or deceased foes, we finally encounter a Marine. However, this Marine is seemingly going through these stages of panic or in a state of PTSD. He's cowering and shooting at us like we are the enemy. Just listening to him though, he says some things about an infection and being turned into a monster. As we look in the area behind him, there is fire and destruction alongside more corpses and blood. Crossing the energy bridge, we discover this one room. It's a double rampway. The area is, for the most part, completely empty. Laying right there is an assault rifle, pointing us seemingly into this room. Inside this room we notice there's a double rampway from a left and right side going downwards to a middle door. The room isn't completely empty though. There is a lot of blood, a lot of equipment, and a lot of bodies. This time though, from the UNSC. Before we can even open this door, the rampway leads us to where we hear a strange sound behind us, but then there is nothing. As we open the door, a dead Marine falls right into our arms, seemingly like he couldn't just make it out of the room in time. We then find the helmet recording from Private Jenkins that will finally alert us as to what is going on. And then we watch the now legendary cutscene, where we see Sergeant Johnson, Captain Keyes, and a lot of other Marines see the same stuff we saw. Only they finally found an elite. However, this elite that they found had its insides completely scrambled.
Something scrambled the insides.
As the Marines continue onwards, they stumble upon a door that the Covenant worked pretty hard to lock down.
But it looks like these Covenant worked pretty hard to lock it down.
After opening it, we hear from a Marine fire team nearby that they are under attack by something that isn't Covenant.
We've got contact! Lots of them! But they're not Covenant! They're just tearing through us! What the... Oh, no!
As this occurs, a strange hissing sound is heard in the background, but nobody can really pinpoint where it's directly coming from. We constantly hear it, and it seems like it's increasing in terms of volume. At this point though, the squad realizes that it's coming from every direction. All of a sudden, infection forms ambush the squad and all hell breaks loose. Marines are getting taken down left and right. Some of them are fleeing and others are just trying to fight the overwhelming force just as the footage stops. At this point in time, we know right when the cinematic ends, the flood is upon us. Right when we put these pieces together as to what just happened, there's a little bit of silence and a mini break. At this point then we see a bunch of red blips on our radar, and we start hearing a door break. As the door breaks down, we see many flood infection forms trying to attack us just like they did to our Marine allies. This happens again, and again, and then all of a sudden, we see more flood. Combat forms and infection forms aplenty. These definitely are not Covenant. This is some other new type of nightmare. This whole entire section that I just recited and talked about was an absolute beautiful collaborative piece of cinematic excellence by Joseph Staten and audio prowess from Marty. The swarming and overwhelming tactics of the Flood are completely unlike the tactics that are used by the Covenant from the earlier levels, and this again goes with that feeling of something completely different from what we were used to in the first half of the game. For playing just about any horror game, it is amazing how a first-person shooter can bring in such horror elements, especially with introducing an entire new enemy faction that is a major part of the plot. It's not to say this is the only game to have done this, as games just like a BioShock have done this quite well. But again, you have to remember that Halo is trying to be some sort of an epic sci-fi space opera, and a creepy level like this, really, we never expected it when we first played through it. Looking back, honestly, in my first few playthroughs, I was completely scared of this level, especially when I was younger. I know a lot of people were too. There aren't really any other games that I could say that I had the same feelings about with any level. Granted now, with how old this game is and with how far the series has progressed, to some, the section, well, it might not have aged too well. The 343 Anniversary version 2, it definitely downplayed a lot of the creepy elements, like there's less blood and it's more lit up. All in all though, no matter what, this is still one of the most iconic moments in the Halo series, and dare I say, maybe in all of video game history. From all sorts of different standpoints, like storytelling, gameplay, and just overall achievement with linking FPS and horror, the Halo 1 Flood reveal, quite simply put, and while it might be a word juxtaposition, it was absolutely beautiful. You could say this was a beautiful nightmare. At this point, I just want to thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, share it, leave a like. Also, please leave a comment letting me know about your experiences with the Flood and just how you felt about this Flood reveal section. My name is Glitchmaster, and I will see you next time.